What's up, everybody? We are back with Jonathan Hickman's X-Men. This is an omnibus that came out earlier this year as of this recording, and man, I thought old X-Men was convoluted. This gets kind of crazy. All right, my name is John Delarose. I'm a #1 best-selling author and award-winning comic creator, and I have my links in the description below if you like my thoughts on comics. Would appreciate you checking out the books. Even if you don't like my thoughts on comics, I'd still appreciate you checking out the books. Of course, we want to get that seen, and I appreciate everybody who supports the channel and supports our artistic endeavors. All right, here's the omnibus. It was a red cover just like this. Very similar to the oversized hardcover books with the X-Men, except for this one says Omnibus on it and those don't. It's kind of an odd thing, but oh well. And you get an interior cover that looks like this. All right, so this is Jonathan Hickman's X-Men, and does the back show everything it collects? Usually it does. Here it is, collecting X-Men 1 through 12. And look, there's a giant gap, so you don't get Jonathan Hickman's 13 through 15. Oof. You also get Giant Size X-Men, Jean Grey and Emma Frost, #1, Nightcrawler #1, Magneto #1, Phantom X #1, Storm #1. These are all one-shots, and they don't really add a lot to this, and I don't think Hickman even wrote all of them, which is the odd, as I recall, part of this. Did he write all of these? Maybe he did. Okay, well, maybe he did. I don't know. Anyway, those one-shots have their own sort of thing. First off, to read this, you have to have read House of X Powers of 10, the prelude event to this, or it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. So we're in Krakoa, which is an island where the mutants have established their own sovereignty. I think, Magneto kind of did that before, but now we're doing it with all the mutants, and all of them have a council together, and that's kind of what it's about. So the first few issues is really just setting up the island, what's happening on the island. The mutants have this weird ability to be resurrected. It's like a video game almost. They could respawn. And honestly, Hickman's got so much talking at the beginning. There's just not a lot happening. Now, they're trying to bring back this Nimrod on the space station, and over the course of this, eventually, that becomes the villain of House of X Powers of 10. And there's this spirit creatures of Krakoa and all that they have to deal with. Apocalypse is there. Again, just not a lot happens. It's a lot of talking and setup and world building. They have the ability to transport based on these flowers. They can open gates with these flowers everywhere as long as they've been there. And so they go across the world. We get diplomatic meetings with other countries. People are trying to invade the whole X compound here and kill everybody. And of course, subterfuge, which they show everybody, you shouldn't do that to us over the course of this. But these feel like a bunch of disjointed stories. And I feel this way about Jonathan Hickman stuff a lot. There's so many freaking characters in the X-Men. It's just man. There's a mission here where these characters is Darwin and X-23, who they call Wolverine now. And they have a cringy moment here where she goes, "I'm Wolverine," and then Logan goes, "That's right." And it's okay. Yeah, but you're Wolverine. Really annoying stuff when they do this stuff with these replacement characters with this. But basically, they go to this South American country, and there's these weird plant organisms taking over everything. Interesting in and of itself. And then that kind of gets abandoned for a bit. And they just go to other characters after they figure that out for a while. It's very bizarre stuff. They have rituals where the mutants kill each other so they can get resurrected. Very, again, more bizarre world building type stuff. It just doesn't feel like the X-Men. It feels like a weird Jonathan Hickman world that happens to star the X-Men in this world. And here's some of the one shots that kind of are just their own thing, and they're not really necessary towards anything. There's a lot of one shots. Oh my gosh. Team goes out into space and deals with some things. I guess they stole some thingamajig or another, and they had to go hide it because Ronan is looking for it. There were some space whales. I see a lot of space whale stuff these days. A lot of random stories. Like I said, you think like that he's just setting all this stuff up. Remember with Fantastic Four, he did all these like stories where the Fantastic Four went to all these different places, and it kind of tied in towards the end because there was like this big event that happened. Like you expect that to kind of happen here, and then it just doesn't happen. In fact, there is a tie-in event that is those missing issues, because there's another island called Krakoa that shows up in here, and that tie-in event's called X of Swords, and in that, like, it kind of gels together a little bit, but still, a lot of the stuff really is non sequitur to that. The art's fine. I actually like Mahmoud Asrar does a lot of the art in this. There's a ton of different artists because of all the one-shots and stuff, but I really like Mahmoud Asrar's art in general. The coloring's pretty good. This is the Phantom X one-shot, which had some interesting coloring to it. And then there's a Storm one-shot. I'd say the one-shots, the arts tends to not be as good as the actual main line here. This is all right here, but just a little stiff comparatively on the figures. But you see the main line is a little bit more detailed and better. They just seem to have cared about that. So once they get back from the whole X of Swords event, they kind of just like have this whole situation where Wolverine, or not Wolverine, X-23, who's calling herself Wolverine, Darwin, and somebody else go into like a old Mayan temple or whatever. Krakoa is back, and they're trying to make peace with another island, which is also a mutant too. Lots of talking. Again, like all these 9-panel pages where like it's just the same faces in different poses. For like, it's like he's stalling, trying to figure out what to do with the plot, and not actually doing the plot. Now after this, this is actually very cool art. I don't know who did this issue, but they did a much better job. This is pretty. They are on a mission to try to stop that Nimrod from being created. He ends up being created. This one, they're in like some ancient thing, and there's some new enemies who are being reborn here. And the X-23 and Darwin sort of story was kind of more interesting than a lot of the other stuff. But again, it's just kind of Sync is the other character. They just kind of do their own thing for a couple issues, and then it's a non sequitur to the other X-Men stuff, which then suddenly there's a party, and Jean Grey is going to pick all the new X-Men, and they, again, just kind of stand around and talk for this entire issue, and it's kind of the last issue. So it's like, what's going on here? Here's Nimrod returning. More standing around and talking. More standing around and talking. It's like, what are the X-Men going to do something? But I guess they picked the new X-Men and named who they are, and this is who they picked. And that's the culmination of the whole book. There's really not much else to it. So, yeah, it's a lot of like background world building stuff that like really doesn't feel like X-Men, meanders around a lot. It skips the main event where something finally actually happens, which is in another book, the X of Swords, with those 3 X-Men issues. Unbelievable that they did an omnibus like this and then made you buy a bunch of other random stuff. And it's a huge convoluted mess that he then just kind of didn't finish because he left Marvel. And so he just stuck somebody else with it. And this is a rough starting point for an X-Men franchise, I gotta say. Art's okay. I mean, like I said, the main line's all right. Nothing phenomenal about it. It was just kind of standard modern art fare. And that's it. So I got to give this like a 6 out of 10. My average is 7, but this was not great stuff. And that's it from Jonathan Hickman. He's gone from Marvel. All right. Leave a comment down below with what you think. Hit that like and subscribe button. We'll be back soon.